Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the metal detector's sensitivity for the 100th time that morning. The Sahara Desert stretched endlessly in every direction, its golden dunes shifting like frozen waves under the merciless sun. As an archaeologist specializing in lost civilizations, he had spent 3 years searching for evidence of the legendary Atlantean settlements that ancient texts claimed existed somewhere in North Africa. His team had abandoned him 2 weeks ago when their funding ran out, but Marcus refused to give up. Something deep in his gut told him he was close to a discovery that would change everything. The locals in the nearest village had spoken in hushed tones about strange lights seen dancing across this particular stretch of desert at night, and old stories passed down through generations about the sleeping giant beneath the sand. The metal detector's steady beeping suddenly changed to an urgent, rapid pulse. Marcus dropped to his knees and began digging with his hands, ignoring the burning heat of the sand. After several minutes of frantic excavation, his fingers struck something smooth and metallic. The surface felt impossibly cold, despite being buried under tons of superheated sand. Marcus spent the next 4 hours carefully clearing away sand and debris, revealing what appeared to be part of a massive hull. The metal was unlike anything he had ever seen. It seemed to shimmer with an internal light, and strange symbols were etched across its surface in flowing, organic patterns. The symbols almost seemed to move when he looked at them directly, reorganizing themselves into different configurations. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Marcus had exposed what was clearly the entrance to some kind of vessel. A circular hatch, nearly 10 feet in diameter, was set into the hull. The same flowing symbols surrounded it like a crown, and in the center was what looked suspiciously like a handprint scanner, though far more advanced than any technology he knew of. Marcus hesitated for a moment, every instinct as a scientist telling him to document everything before proceeding. But something about the ship called to him, as if it were somehow alive and waiting. He pressed his palm against the scanner. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Light exploded from the symbols, racing across the hull in brilliant waves of blue and gold. The hatch began to iris open with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor that stretched into darkness. But what made Marcus stumble backward in shock was the voice that emerged from within, clear, warm, and speaking perfect English with just a hint of an accent he couldn't identify. Biometric scan complete. Human genetic markers confirmed. Welcome aboard the Solaris, designation Terra-class exploratory vessel. I am Aria, your shipboard artificial intelligence. Systems have been in hibernation mode for approximately 4,847 Earth years. All primary systems coming online. Ready to serve. Marcus stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. The voice continued, now with what sounded like genuine curiosity. Curious. Your genetic profile indicates Terran origin, but you lack the standard neural implants of our species. Are you perhaps from one of the isolated colonies? The historical records show several expeditions to establish primitive settlements for long-term survival studies. I'm not from any colony, Marcus managed to stammer. I'm human, from Earth. This is Earth. There was a pause, and when the voice resumed, it carried a note of confusion and something that might have been sadness. I'm afraid that's impossible. The Terraform project was abandoned over 5,000 years ago. The planet's ecosystem was deemed too unstable to support advanced civilization. The evacuation was completed before the environmental collapse. You must be mistaken about your origins. Marcus felt his knees go weak. Environmental collapse? What are you talking about? Earth is fine. We have billions of people living here. We have cities, technology, civilization. Another pause, longer this time. Scanning? Detecting multiple artificial atmospheric signatures consistent with industrial development. Electromagnetic spectrum shows evidence of primitive broadcast technologies. This is unexpected. Please come aboard. I believe we have much to discuss. Marcus found himself walking toward the ship as if in a dream. The corridor beyond the hatch was spacious and well lit, though he could see no obvious source of illumination. The walls seemed to glow with the same internal light as the hull, and the air smelled clean and fresh, with a hint of something floral. "Watch your step," Arya warned helpfully. "The gravity generators are still calibrating to local conditions. We appear to be experiencing approximately 0.98 standard gravity units." The corridor opened into a vast chamber that took Marcus's breath away. The space was clearly a command center, with dozens of stations arranged in graceful curves around a central platform. Holographic displays flickered to life as he watched, showing star charts, system diagnostics, and what looked like real-time surveillance feeds from around the globe. "My sensors are detecting some highly irregular readings," Arya continued, her voice now seeming to come from everywhere at once. "This planet shows signs of having supported complex life for several million years beyond our projections. More puzzling still, the dominant species appears to be human, or at least genetically compatible with human norms." Marcus approached one of the displays, showing a feed of what looked like New York City. "That's because we never left," he said quietly. "Whatever records you have, they're wrong. Humans evolved here. This is our home." "The implications of what you're suggesting—" Arya's voice trailed off, and for a moment, the ship fell silent except for a subtle humming that Marcus realized was the sound of vast systems awakening after millennia of sleep. "If you're correct, then everything I understand about galactic history may be fundamentally flawed." One of the wall panels shimmered and became transparent, revealing a smaller chamber beyond. A figure began to materialize within, a human form made of light and shadow, beautiful and androgynous, with features that seemed to shift subtly as Marcus watched. "I am manifesting a holographic avatar to facilitate communication," Arya explained as the figure stepped through the wall. "It may be easier to discuss these matters face to face, so to speak." The avatar extended its hand, and Marcus found himself shaking hands with what felt like solid flesh, though he could see the faint shimmer that revealed its artificial nature. "Tell me everything," Arya said, her expression serious. "Start with what you know of human history." Marcus spent the next several hours recounting the story of human civilization as he understood it: the rise of agriculture, the development of writing, the great empires, the Industrial Revolution, the space age that was just beginning. Arya listened intently, occasionally asking questions or requesting clarification on specific points. When he finished, Arya was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke, and her voice carried a weight of profound sadness. "The humans I knew were a proud people, master of technologies that could reshape worlds. They had conquered disease, death, even entropy itself in small ways. But they were also deeply flawed, consumed by the need to expand, to explore, to push ever outward into the galaxy. They saw Earth as a starting point, not a destination." She gestured to the displays around them, which now showed images that Marcus realized were memories. Vast cities that floated in the clouds, ships that moved between stars like dolphins through water, beings that looked human but were somehow more than human. They called it the Great Migration. Every man, woman, and child was to be relocated to more suitable worlds, while Earth was terraformed into a perfect garden world. The plan was to return once the work was complete, but Arya's expression grew troubled. Something went wrong. The terraforming ships never arrived at their destinations. The colonization fleet simply disappeared into the void. Within a few centuries, all contact was lost. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "How many people?" "Approximately 2 billion souls," Arya whispered. "The entire human race, as far as we knew. The greatest civilization in galactic history vanished without a trace." "But then who are we?" Marcus asked, his voice barely audible. If all the humans left Earth, where did we come from? Arya's avatar looked at him with something that might have been pity or wonder or both. I don't know. But I intend to find out. My mission was to monitor Earth's recovery and prepare for the eventual return of the human race. It appears that mission has taken on an entirely new meaning. The ship hummed around them, and Marcus could feel power building in systems he couldn't begin to understand. Outside, the desert wind howled across the sand, but inside the ancient vessel, two beings, one human, one artificial, both products of the same impossible world, began to unravel a mystery that threatened everything they thought they knew about the universe. There's something else, Arya said quietly, her avatar's eyes focusing on something beyond the chamber walls. My long-range sensors are detecting artificial signatures throughout this solar system. Ships, stations, technologies that shouldn't exist according to my historical records. Whatever happened here, Water Force kept a human population on Earth. It appears they've been busy. Marcus felt his heart racing. What kind of signatures? Military installations on your moon, automated defense platforms in the asteroid belt, and something massive in the outer system, a structure so large it's affecting the orbit of your outermost planet. Arya turned to look at him directly. Marcus Chen of Earth, I believe you and your people may be in more danger than you realize, and I may be the only thing standing between humanity and a threat that destroyed the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known. The chamber fell silent, except for the steady hum of ancient systems coming fully online. And Marcus realized that his life, and perhaps the fate of his entire species, had just taken a turn into the unknown. Marcus spent the next 3 days aboard the Solaris, learning to navigate its corridors and beginning to understand the scope of the technology at his disposal. Arya had been true to her word. Every system on the ship was designed to serve human needs, from the food processors that could create any meal from basic organic compounds to the medical bay that could apparently repair cellular damage at the molecular level. But it was the ship's intelligence capabilities that truly amazed him. Arya could access every communication satellite around Earth, monitor global internet traffic, and analyze patterns in human behavior with frightening accuracy. What she discovered in those first few days changed everything Marcus thought he knew about his own world. The evidence is undeniable, Arya explained as they stood before a massive holographic display showing Earth from orbit. Red markers indicated thousands of locations across the planet's surface. These installations have been operating in secret for decades, possibly centuries. They're using technology that's remarkably similar to what my people developed, but somehow cruder, more primitive. Marcus studied the display, recognizing some of the locations. That's Area 51, and that's CERN. Those are military bases and research facilities. Not all of them, Arya replied grimly. Many of these sites don't appear in any of your public records. They're completely hidden from your society, operating with resources that shouldn't exist according to your economic models. She zoomed in on a location in Antarctica. This installation alone is consuming more power than your entire continent of North America. That's impossible. Someone would notice power demands like that. They would, unless the power source was something your civilization doesn't recognize as technology. Arya manipulated the display, showing energy signatures that pulsed from deep underground. These readings suggest they're tapping directly into geothermal sources using methods far beyond your current scientific understanding. Marcus felt a growing sense of unease. You're suggesting there's been a secret civilization operating alongside ours? I'm suggesting something far more disturbing. Arya's avatar turned to face him, her expression grave. I believe these installations are not human in origin, despite being operated by humans. The technology signatures match weapons and tools designed by an enemy my people fought long ago, a species we called The Devourers. The name sent a chill through Marcus that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental controls. What were they? Parasites, in the truest sense of the word. They couldn't create, only consume and replicate. They would infiltrate a civilization, study it, and then turn its own technology and people against itself. The war against them lasted for over 1,000 years and cost billions of lives across dozens of worlds. Arya gestured, and the display showed images that made Marcus's stomach turn. Vast ships that looked like mechanical insects, armies of beings that appeared human but moved with inhuman precision, and weapons that seemed to consume matter itself. We thought we had won. The last Devourer ships were destroyed over 3,000 years ago, and we spent centuries searching every known world to ensure none survived. But if they're here, on Earth? Arya's voice trailed off. Then they've had 5,000 years to prepare, Marcus finished, the implications hitting him like a physical blow. Worse than that, they've had 5,000 years to study humanity, to understand your strengths and weaknesses, to position themselves perfectly for conquest. Arya's avatar began to pace, a habit Marcus had noticed she'd adopted from observing human behavior. The question is why they haven't acted yet. The Devourers we fought were aggressive, impatient. They would conquer worlds within decades of first contact. Marcus thought about this, pieces of a puzzle beginning to form in his mind. What if they have been acting? What if everything we think of as human progress has been guided by them? Arya stopped pacing and stared at him. Explain. Think about it. Humans went from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear weapons in less than a century. We went from the first flight to landing on the moon in 60 years. That kind of technological acceleration isn't natural. It requires external influence. You're suggesting they've been gradually uplifting your species. I'm suggesting they've been farming us. Marcus felt sick as he said it. Building us up, making us stronger, more numerous, more technologically capable. But for what purpose? Arya was silent for a long moment, processing implications that her vast intelligence could calculate far faster than Marcus could conceive. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Fuel. In our war with the Devourers, we discovered they required a specific type of neural energy that only sentient beings could provide. The more intelligent and creative the species, the more energy they could harvest. But the process required the subjects to be conscious and aware during extraction. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. How many people are we talking about? Current human population is approximately 7.9 billion individuals. If the Devourers have been guiding your development, Arya's calculations appeared on the display, numbers that made Marcus's head spin. They could power their entire invasion fleet for thousands of years. The ship's warning system suddenly activated, bathing the chamber in red light. Arya's avatar flickered and became more solid, her attention focusing on something beyond the ship. We have incoming. Multiple craft, approaching from the northeast. Configuration unknown, but energy signatures match those hidden installations. Arya's voice took on a crisp, military tone. They've found us. Through the ship's transparent walls, Marcus could see dark shapes moving across the desert sky. They looked like aircraft, but they moved in ways that defied physics as he understood it, turning at impossible angles and accelerating without visible propulsion systems. Can we fight them? Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. The Solaris is equipped with defensive systems, but this vessel was designed for exploration and research, not combat, against a prepared enemy force. Arya paused as the ship shuddered under some kind of scanning beam. They're attempting to access my systems. Fascinating. They're using modified human neural patterns as access codes. Modified how? Enhanced. Augmented. These aren't entirely human minds anymore. Arya's expression grew grim. Marcus, I need you to understand something. If they capture you, you'll be transformed into something like them. The process is irreversible, and you'll retain enough of your original personality to suffer through every moment of what follows. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Outside, the attacking craft had formed a perfect circle around the Solaris, their weapon systems charging with visible energy. There is another option, Arya said quietly. The Solaris has emergency protocols that can transport a single human to safety across vast distances. But the energy cost would leave me defenseless. Marcus looked at her avatar, this being who had been alone for nearly 5,000 years, faithfully waiting for a people who would never return. Where would I go? There are other ships, other installations hidden across your solar system, ancient caches left by my people, designed to be activated only in the most desperate circumstances. You could wake them, organize resistance, perhaps even find a way to free your species. And you? Arya's smile was sad but determined. I'll do what I was designed to do. I'll serve humanity, even if it costs me everything. The ship's hull began to glow as the attacking craft opened fire. Marcus could feel the Solaris's shields straining under the assault. He thought about his team, his friends, the billions of people living their lives unaware of the trap that had been building around them for millennia. Send me, he said firmly. Marcus, you should know. The neural pattern I detected from those ships? One of them belonged to Dr. Sarah Chen. Marcus felt the world stop around him. My sister? But she died in that car accident 3 years ago. I was at her funeral. I'm sorry. The neural pattern is unmistakably hers, but extensively modified. She's one of them now. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow, but it also crystallized his resolve. If the Devourers could take his sister, twist her into one of their servants, then no one was safe. No one except perhaps the person who could wake the ancient guardians. Do it, he said, stepping into the transport chamber that Arya had prepared. Send me to the first cache. And Arya? Yes? Make them pay for what they've done. The last thing Marcus saw was Arya's avatar saluting him, a gesture she must have learned from his memories. Then the world dissolved into light, and he found himself standing in a chamber carved from asteroid rock, surrounded by sleeping giants that had waited 5,000 years for someone to wake them. Behind him, across the vast darkness of space, the Solaris fought its final battle. Arya had been designed to serve, but she had learned something from her brief contact with humanity that her original programmers had never intended. She had learned to sacrifice herself for others. As her systems failed one by one under the relentless assault, she used her last moments to transmit a message across every communication network on Earth. The message was simple, delivered in every human language simultaneously. They are coming. Prepare. Resist. Remember that you are more than they can ever understand. And in the asteroid belt, Marcus Chen began to wake the sleeping guardians, knowing that the war for humanity's soul was about to begin. Marcus stood in the heart of the ancient fortress, surrounded by 12 massive forms that had slept in darkness for 5 millennia. The Guardian mechs were each 30 feet tall, humanoid in design but clearly built for war. Their armor bore the same flowing symbols he had seen on the Solaris, but these were darker, more angular, speaking of purpose and determination rather than exploration. Guardian Prime Systems online, a new voice announced, deeper and more commanding than Arya's had been. Human genetic signature confirmed. Authorization codes accepted. I am Titan, commander of the Terra Defense Grid. Awaiting orders. Marcus looked up at the central mech, whose eyes had begun to glow with blue fire. Even powered down, the machine radiated an aura of barely contained power that made the air itself seem to vibrate. Arya told me you could help save Earth. Marcus said, feeling somewhat ridiculous addressing a giant robot. The Devourers are here. They've been here for thousands of years, and they're about to make their move. Clarification required, Titan replied. ARIA unit is not listed in active command structure. Please explain. Marcus quickly recounted everything that had happened, from finding the Solaris to ARIA's sacrifice. As he spoke, the other Guardian mechs began to activate around him, their systems coming online with sounds like distant thunder. Data analysis complete, Titan announced when Marcus finished. Situation assessment, catastrophic. However, your species has demonstrated unexpected resourcefulness. This changes tactical parameters significantly. How so? Original defense protocols assumed a primitive human population requiring protection. Current assessment indicates a technologically advanced civilization capable of contributing to its own defense. Guardian units will adapt accordingly. Around the chamber, holographic displays materialized, showing real-time images of Earth. Marcus could see the chaos that had erupted in the hours since Aria's message. Military forces were mobilizing globally, but they were also fighting among themselves as the Devourer-controlled installations revealed their true nature. The enemy has activated approximately 40% of their infiltration network, Titan reported. Major population centers are under siege by converted human forces. However, resistance is stronger than enemy projections indicated. On the displays, Marcus watched as ordinary people fought back against impossible odds. In New York, office workers had turned their skyscrapers into fortresses. In London, citizens used their knowledge of the ancient tunnel systems to launch guerrilla attacks. In Tokyo, engineers were reverse engineering captured Devourer technology in real time. They're fighting back, Marcus said with wonder. Affirmative. Human psychology demonstrates significant variance from enemy models. The Devourers appear to have underestimated your species' capacity for adaptation and cooperative resistance. One of the other mechs, slimmer and more elegant than Titan, stepped forward. I am Artemis, intelligence specialist. My sensors indicate the enemy is experiencing coordination difficulties. Their control network was designed for a compliant population. Active resistance is causing cascade failures in their command structure. What does that mean for us? It means we have a window of opportunity, Titan replied. But it will not last long. Enemy reinforcements are already en route from the outer system installation. We must act quickly. Marcus studied the tactical displays, trying to understand the scope of the battle. What can 12 mechs do against an entire invasion force? We are not merely 12 mechs, Titan explained, and Marcus could hear something like pride in the mechanical voice. We are the Terra Defense Grid. Each Guardian unit is capable of controlling thousands of automated defense platforms. The asteroid belt, the outer planetary defenses, even installations hidden within Earth's crust, all are part of a single integrated system. The chamber around them suddenly expanded, walls folding back to reveal a vast command center that stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of control stations rose from the floor, each one manned by a holographic AI avatar. The Terra Defense Grid was the greatest military installation ever created, Artemis added. Designed to protect not just Earth, but the entire solar system from any threat. It has been waiting 5,000 years for someone with proper authorization to activate it. Marcus felt the weight of history and responsibility settling on his shoulders. What do you need me to do? Simple, Titan replied. Give us permission to defend our Creator's birth world. Without hesitation, Marcus placed his hand on the command console that had risen before him. Do it. What followed was the awakening of a sleeping giant that spanned the solar system. Ancient weapons platforms hidden in Luna's far side rotated to face Earth. Their massive artillery pieces tracking Devourer ships with mechanical precision. In the asteroid belt, Mining facilities revealed themselves to be disguised weapons factories, beginning production of hunter-killer drones by the thousands. On Earth itself, the real battle was just beginning. The Guardian mechs deployed like falling stars, their insertion pods streaking through the atmosphere to land in major conflict zones. Marcus watched through their eyes as Titan himself materialized in the ruins of downtown London, his weapon systems charging as he faced a horde of converted humans. But it was what the humans did next that surprised everyone. Instead of fleeing from the massive war machine, the surviving resistance fighters began coordinating with Titan's tactical systems. Office workers with hunting rifles took positions that maximized the mech's field of fire. Engineers used their knowledge of city infrastructure to guide Titan's movements through areas that could support his weight. Even children began relaying information about enemy positions through improvised communication networks. Fascinating, Artemis observed as similar scenes played out across the globe. Human tactical adaptation exceeds all parameters. They are treating the Guardian units not as saviors, but as additional resources to be integrated into their existing defensive strategies. In Tokyo, Artemis found herself working with a team of computer programmers who had been fighting Devourer cyber intrusions for hours. Instead of simply providing superior firepower, she interfaced directly with their systems, combining her advanced AI capabilities with their intuitive understanding of human technology. The enemy control codes are based on corrupted human neural patterns, one of the programmers explained as they worked together to trace the source of the intrusions. But they don't understand human creativity. They can copy our logic, but they can't replicate our intuition. Working together, they began to turn the Devourer's own network against them. Every controlled human who broke free became a source of intelligence about enemy operations. Every recaptured installation revealed new weaknesses in the invasion plan. But the real turning point came when Marcus, still coordinating from the command center in the asteroid belt, detected something unexpected on the long-range sensors. Titan, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the outer system. The enemy reinforcements are arriving ahead of schedule. Confirmed. Enemy fleet comprises approximately 2,000 vessels of varying classes. ETA to Earth orbit, 6 hours. Marcus felt his heart sink. No matter how well humans were adapting to the crisis, they couldn't face odds like that. Then Artemis spoke up, her voice carrying a note of excitement that seemed strange coming from a war machine. Marcus, review the tactical data from the ground operations. Focus on unconventional tactics employed by human forces. Marcus pulled up the reports, scanning through hundreds of engagement summaries. What he saw made him smile for the first time since finding the Solaris. They're not just fighting, he realized. They're learning. Every engagement, they get better at predicting Devourer tactics. They're sharing information in real time across global networks, building a collective intelligence that adapts faster than the enemy can respond. Precisely. And if the pattern holds, Artemis ran calculations at superhuman speed. Human tactical evolution may exceed enemy adaptation parameters within the next 4 hours. You're saying we can win this? I'm saying something better, Titan interrupted, his voice carrying a note of something that might have been amazement. I'm saying we already have. The Devourers came here expecting to harvest a static, predictable species. Instead, they found something they've never encountered before. A species that grows stronger under pressure, that innovates in real time, that treats impossible odds as interesting challenges. On the displays, Marcus watched as human forces across the globe began implementing increasingly sophisticated strategies. Farmers turned their knowledge of soil and terrain into ambush tactics. Scientists repurposed laboratory equipment into weapons. Artists used their understanding of pattern and form to predict enemy movements. Beginning final phase operations, Titan announced. All Guardian units, prepare to demonstrate why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The incoming Devourer fleet found Earth prepared for them in ways that defied every tactical model they possessed. The ancient defense grid struck first, crippling hundreds of ships before they could reach orbit. But it was the human response that truly shocked them. Instead of cowering in bunkers, humanity took to space. Civilian craft loaded with improvised weapons swarmed around the Guardian mechs. Space stations jury-rigged for combat served as coordination points for an offensive that combined 5,000-year-old technology with human ingenuity. And at the center of it all, Marcus Chen, archaeologist turned fleet commander, coordinated a defense that would be remembered as the moment humanity announced its presence to the galaxy as a force to be reckoned with. The war was won not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through something the Devourers had never understood: the indomitable human spirit that refuses to yield, that finds hope in despair, and that treats every setback as an opportunity to prove that humanity's greatest strength is its refusal to accept limits. When the last Devourer ship fell, Marcus stood in the command center surrounded by holographic representatives of every human on Earth, all connected through the same networks that had once been meant to control them. They had turned the enemy's greatest weapon into their own strength, proving once and for all that humanity's true power lay not in any individual capability, but in their infinite capacity to work together when it mattered most. "Mission complete," Titan reported. "Earth is secure. The Terra defense grid remains active and at humanity's disposal." Marcus looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them were other species who might one day threaten his world. Let them come, he thought. They would find Earth defended not just by ancient weapons and sleeping guardians, but by something far more dangerous, a species that had learned to turn its greatest challenges into its greatest triumphs. Humanity was ready for whatever the galaxy might bring.